2017 was a pretty great year in film, but I'm not gonna lie, there were several stinkers, and I'm about to talk about them. So essentially the whole last video is kind of pointless, because I was making a point of it being a good year. And now I'm gonna do the complete opposite and show off all the bad stuff this year. Before I start off this list properly, I would like to quickly give a few honourable mentions. Baywatch, The Boss Baby, The Mummy, The Snowman, and The Circle. Oh, and also Assassin's Creed, because that's technically a 2016 film, but no, if it was a 2017 film, it would definitely be on this list. Just saying. How did this happen? Good God, I really like the first Kingsman movie, but Jesus Christ, if there's more of a betrayal to a franchise I've ever seen, it's this. Now, the first Kingsman, don't get me wrong, it's ridiculous, but it's not stupid. This movie isn't ridiculous, it's stupid. It wastes a huge amount of opportunities that narratively would make a lot more sense than others, and then it sticks with things that really shouldn't be there. Nothing in this film feels earned. It feels like it should be two films in its own sense. The main problem with the movie is that the reason it's stupid is because in the first movie, there was the grounding element. In this case, it was Eggsy. Now, he had a story to tell in this movie, in the first movie that is. In the second movie, he doesn't tell, in fact, there isn't a story at all. It's just something about drugs and some American guys and mind gel and some other stupid stuff. It's very much style over substance. Some of the action scenes are quite good. Others of them, not so much. I like the cast in this. I like a lot of parts of this. I like the director. I think the main problem is they didn't have good enough source material to put them through this correctly. And as a result, good God, Kingsman: The Golden Circle sucks. I don't even know what Flatliners was trying to be honest. Sometimes it's a sci-fi movie, sometimes it's a drama movie, sometimes it's a horror movie. In fact, it goes perfectly in a 3-act structure that way. Neither of which work. In fact, I don't think any of the parts of this movie really work. All the characters are boring and unlikable. None of it really makes any sense if you just sit down and think about it for 1 second. Not even 1 second. While you're watching it, you know it doesn't make sense. And even if you don't, again, think for 1 second and then it doesn't make sense. The one thing I can give this movie is it has themes, but those themes are touched on really apparently are not dealt with in such a terrible way that you're just left feeling so frustrated at what the movie has become. You know, it's meant to be a sequel or a remake to Flatliners, I don't know, but it doesn't seem to be a sequel, but it doesn't seem to be a remake either. So which is it? I don't freaking know. I don't really care either. In fact, as a whole, this movie's boring and you don't care, and there's nothing visually interesting. So all you're left with is a couple of okay lines, a unique premise that ultimately lets you down, and a theme that's really poorly explored. That's my summary of Flatliners. Don't see this film, and it's at number 9. The Bye Bye Man. Oh. I don't even want to describe this movie. All the characters are complete idiots. Nothing they do makes any sense. The film is riddled with plot holes. They're pretty poorly acted. That's a pretty good place to start. The main monster is stupid. The plot is recycled. And I think it's sequel bait. As if we're ever going to get another Bye Bye Man movie. And like I said, every single character is freaking stupid. Because of that, the film is a complete and utter mess. I was having a hell of a fun time watching this movie, picking it apart. Because no parts of the plot make sense. If you don't want anyone to know about the Bye-Bye Man, then why would you write his name down? You know, there's a weird dog thing that shows up. There's just several inconsistencies in this that just don't work, really. I just can't remember many of the parts of this movie. Why is it that one person dies almost instantly after they hear the name of Bye-Bye Man, but, like, the main character doesn't even know he heard the name before? What's all that about? Yeah, so, in conclusion, it's sequel bait. All the characters are stupid. It's a complete mess, plot-wise. Acting's pretty terrible, with the exception of Carrie-Anne Moss. And I don't like this movie at all. It's probably the worst horror film of the year. And for that reason, oh yes, it's at number 8. You know, when Resident Evil the final chapter started out, I thought I'd enjoy it as a so bad that it's good film, because of how terrible all the camera work was. Then it kept going. Then it kept going. Then it kept going. Then it expected you to care. I mean, it's nothing like the Resident Evil video games at all. The only thing that's slightly similar is there's zombies in it. And other than that, everything's terrible. Mila Jovovich sucks. The direction is god-awful. It's the worst direction of the year. The editing is atrocious. The plot is so determined to prove that it actually means something, even though, like, none of the viewer base cares except for people in China. But I'm not Chinese, so I'm gonna hate this movie all I want. Ian Glenn's in this as a poorly developed villain who I can't even remember. A lot of parts of the film just don't make much sense. I mean, it's not atrocious or anything in terms of how bad it is. Like I said, you can laugh at it like hell. Unfortunately, it keeps on going. So the atrocious editing, writing, direction, and other things kind of just keep you going. You know what? I was enjoying that as a so bad it's good film, but now I really don't. And also, what you're seeing in the trailers is 100% in the movie. It's literally like whoever the guy that directed this saw Mad Max Fury Road and decided he'd make his Resident Evil movie into it. He also edited it atrociously, and I really had no clue which character was dying in what scene. Not that I really cared or bothered to check though, because none of the characters matter, really. The only one that matters in the end is... what's her name again? Forget it, I think I've given my point. Resident Evil the final chapter was funny because of how bad it is, then it stopped being funny because of how bad it was. Yeah. Again, don't see this movie. You know what? I think David Ayer is good when he's given the right material. Unfortunately, he isn't very good at choosing what the right material is. I mean, what can you really expect from the director of Suicide Squad and the writer that sexually assaulted several people, as well as Netflix, who've made a total of next to no good movies? But hey, they've made some good shows. Unfortunately, this isn't to the quality of some of its best shows. Will Smith plays Will Smith and that's it. And all the other characters are really bland and forgettable. In fact, character development is the ultimate failure of this movie. It's like, it's so confusing. It references a Dark Lord and a war and stuff going on. But the problem is, it doesn't really explain any of it, they just reference it. Like, compare it to other universes. You can write it off, explaining, oh yeah, this is space, or oh yeah, this is a different world, or oh yeah, this is a different part of society. This is just ingrained into human culture and it's never explained. I want to know the history of this. But the problem is, when we don't even get a single answer from it, we kind of just give up and want the film to be over. It's so bad I fell asleep for 15 minutes, and when I woke up I didn't miss a single thing. All the camera work is pretty awful, a lot of the writing's pretty bad. The plot is just stupid. The camera work is really uninspired. Again, it looks just like Suicide Squad. Just a load of dark colours with the occasional lights thrown in it. You know, there's a lot of inconsistencies and unrealistic parts for a film that's meant to be dark, but it misses a grounding element which makes sure to keep the film dark. You know, there are just so many of its own rules that it breaks. For example, if elves are so perfect, then why can one of them get hit by a car and then that's them done? Or like, if this guy isn't gonna hurt them or arrest them, then why does he arrest them? Only so he can then die and then have someone else try to capture them and fail. What's the point of that? Jesus Christ. Like, Netflix can do some good stuff, they just don't put their faith in the right people. Neither does David Ayer. So next time, just don't make a Bright sequel, okay? Because we don't like any of the characters or the universe. It's pretty uninspired, not interesting, dull. That's the most part of this. This movie is so freaking dull. And hence, Bright is at number 6. Unforgettable, surprisingly, is quite forgettable. I don't think there's a single original element in this movie. The only thing that works about it is that it has Rosario Dawson, who's a competent actress, and a cast that deserves a lot better than this. But unfortunately, it's just not given anything good. A lot of the plot points are just stupid. And you know, you're left a lot to interpretation, really. Because you don't know how long Rosario Dawson's been with this guy. And you don't know... I had to work out for myself. It took me, 10 minutes for me to piece together what this film actually was. Because, of course, the film gives you no hints as to what it is. There's no throwaway line or anything. You just have to assume for yourself. And then Katherine Heigl plays one of my least favourite characters in film this year. And in all fairness, that is intended. But all the stuff she does just feels really pointless. And hasn't really got good enough motivation for it. Like, she breaks into Rosario Dawson's account, makes a Facebook account, then uses the wrong chat for Facebook to message a psychopath who she has a restraining order on. Then the guy shows up, and then Katherine Heigl kills her. Wow, that really had a point. It's filled to the brim with subplots that don't matter. A lot of really pointless stuff. It's like a straight-to-TV movie that's only there to just keep, women in their late 40s interested. You know. It's just so freaking boring and pointless. In fact, I reckon you could take away about 40% of this movie and you wouldn't be missing anything. The fact is, no one even questions her actions at all, especially towards the end. Even though this master manipulator that Katherine Heigl has set things up perfectly, even though it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, Unforgettable. I may not forget just because of how awful it is. Well done for making the top 5. Sheerly out of making me mad. God, I hated Geostorm. I really hated Geostorm. This is perhaps the most stupid movie I've seen all year. And that's saying something. I've seen monster trucks, in which a squid lives inside a monster truck. But no, this is probably more dumb. The acting is pretty terrible in this movie, to be honest. Especially the little girl. She is not good at all. There's a load of really forced emotional stuff that just doesn't pay off in the slightest. I mean, the plot itself is just terrible. This is like a sci-fi channel movie. A sci-fi channel movie that's determined to be as cinematic as possible, but misses out on the most important element. The fact that you care. and like none of the characters are interesting. You've even got some talented people in there, but unfortunately, the script just can't save them. I think the direction's fine with this movie. The problem mostly is that the writing is just atrocious. They go, hey, now let's explode up Hong Kong. Okay, cool. Now there are frozen people. Now let's have a guy with a really bad English accent become the villain. Now let's have the token Hispanic guy save the day. Now let's have Gerard Butler fly through space. That's the best way I can describe this movie. It's such a confusing thing to explain, really, in terms of how awful it is. It's funny in how bad it is, and that's the reason why it's only at number 4. Because the other 3 movies above this are not funny in the slightest. Hence, Geostorm is only at number 4. I really didn't like this movie. It's riddled with plot errors and just utter stupidity. The structure's terrible, the characters are really uninteresting, the acting's pretty awful, the CGI sucks, it's filled with like these stupid character types. Because of that, Geostorm is at number 4. And God, I've got 3 more movies to talk about. Let's face it, we all knew that the Emoji Movie would be at number 3, or at least on this list at some point. And Jesus Christ, I completely forgot about this movie existing until I noticed it was on my IMDb list for films I saw. And the more I think about it, the more I utterly despise it. There is not a scummier film existing. I hate this movie with the bottom of my heart. The character played by TJ Miller is so bland of a character. James Corden is atrocious in this movie. All the line delivery is terrible. The problem is, none of the characters are characters, they're gimmicks. The plot's really generic and recycled, except from it throws a lot of product placement into it. For example, here's a Dropbox. Here's Just Dance, that scene that no one wanted. I hated the Just Dance theme, by the way. And then they freaking show it again for a dance sequence at the end. The villain is terrible, she has no motive for doing anything. They're all friends by the end of it, which means the story was all pointless. It tries to have these, like, deeper heart to it, with, like, a kid wanting to ask someone out to a dance, but the dialogue is just so awfully done that I hate it. This movie tries to be so funny so often, and it falls flat on its face every damn time. This movie was painful to watch. Absolutely painful. I haven't even talked about the animation, which, while not atrocious, is really bland and stylistically mediocre. There are just certain things that could be done so much better in this movie. The design's really uninspired, and none of the animation is really that good. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is that the writing is utterly atrocious. It throws in feminist messages for some reason, even though no one wants feminist messages. They're not the right messages we should have. The messages should be that everyone can be whatever they want to be, not that women can be whatever they want to be. That's just thrown in there because reasons. I just despise this movie utterly because none of it is funny. It's just a product placement, the movie. And because of that, I hate it. It's just painful. God, I was juggling between which of the top 3 movies should actually go at number 1, and there was a time when this was at number 1. However, in the end, I decided that because this film was the shortest, it would go at number 3. And God damn it, I hate this movie. So what could possibly be worse than the Emoji Movie? I think, for Transformers The Last Night, this is the film that's awfulness. I don't need to explain very much. It's the same old Transformers slog, filmed with terrible dialogue, stereotypes, awful acting, bad direction, and what you're not seeing in these trailers is... Oh wait, you are. Look at the black bars at the bottom. They change with every single shot, and it is so distracting. This film screws up the basics of film editing, and has the resolution change every 5 seconds. The Transformers themselves are non-characters at this point. Optimus Prime turns evil an hour into the movie for no reason, then he comes back and he turns good again. The plot's about some Transformers or something. I don't know, it's just yet another retcon thing that, again, distinguishes the whole plot of the other Transformers movies. Because remember in the first one when absolutely no one knew about Transformers? Then everyone did, but then it turns out Transformers were also on the moon, and in space, and in the Middle Ages, and in the 40s. Yeah, this film is just a huge amount of wasted potential. The comic relief is terrible. I hated the main female character in this. She's so forced and tacked on. Her English accent is... I can't tell if it's fake or not. I think it might be, but I really don't know. It rips off Suicide Squad for some reason in the movie, which I find really bizarre with its Decepticons. The action is awful, but, you know, what do you expect? The plot of this movie is just, what a surprise, it's another MacGuffin that both the Autobots and the Decepticons are looking for. I mean, yet again, the characters are terrible. There's this young girl character, and she's in it for some reason, and she's meant to be like this, again, feminist icon character. But the problem is, I can't really remember any point she had in the film. In fact, that's about 50% of this movie. It's all pointless. There was another robot who reminds me of C-3PO. He was incredibly annoying. Then there was Anthony Hopkins who showed up in this movie to spout off a load of exposition. And John Turturro was in it just so he could talk on a phone. Josh Duhamel was only there because reasons. I don't want to talk about this. It's just the same old Transformers stuff. It's bad. The movie is unfunny. It switches between its film ratio every 3 seconds. In fact, no, not even then. Every, like, 0.5 seconds. All the characters are awful. All the character beats don't make any sense. The action's awfully shot. The film is poorly directed. The characters are annoying. The writing's dreadful. What do you expect from a Transformers movie? And in fact, there's only one film that I hate more than this from this year. And that film is... "50 Shades Darker" is worse than 50 Shades of Grey. That's saying something. The problem I have with 50 Shades Darker that makes it worse than 50 Shades of Grey is that it's convinced that it has gained its audience. It's convinced that everyone cares about its characters now. And so, when no one actually cares about the characters, and it actually goes into this deeper story... deeper? No. When it continues to go into its story like it expects you to care about its characters, it falls extremely flat. Nothing about this film works whatsoever. None of the characters have any chemistry at all. It's worse chemistry than Anakin and Padme, for crying out loud. All of the sex scenes are just terrible. There's nothing erotic about them at all. I think all the other characters are just there for the sake of them being there. There's a lot of forced plot lines that don't add anything to the film at all. Nothing works in here. Nothing's dramatic. Nothing's interesting. Things just happen. There's a point where there's a forced helicopter crash. And then in the very next scene, it's just all fine. They literally... add it for the sake of adding tension, but then they get rid of it. All these plot lines just add up to absolutely nothing, and you're stuck with nearly 2 hours of terrible dialogue, and terrible chemistry, and terrible cinematography. there's a lot of like added stuff that doesn't really make sense to show in the film. This film made a ton of money as well. It made more than John Wick 2, which is a way better movie. The problem with 50 Shades Darker is that it's sure that people now care about it, and people simply don't. It sequel baits at the end of the movie. It thinks that you care about the lore of the characters, but you don't, because you hate the characters. You utterly despise them. The acting is terrible. The direction is terrible. The cinematography is terrible. The writing is terrible. The plot is terrible. Wait, I just referred to this film as having a plot. That's how draining this movie is. I forgot that it didn't have a plot. None of this movie works at all. It's literally the same as the first 50 Shades of Grey, except from the only difference is it thinks it's way more important than it actually is. And because of that, 50 Shades Darker is the worst movie of 2017. And with good reason. Can I stop talking about terrible movies from this year now? Good. Now I just have to talk about the rest of them. That'll be in a while though. I don't know when I'll actually make that video, because heck, it will take a long time to make. This video's taken 26 minutes of your time. Trust me. Like that video will be an hour long at least. But hey. Yeah, so let me know what you thought of 2017. What was your favorite? What was your least favorite film of the year? What was the most disappointing one? Yeah, let me know. While I liked 2017 as a year, there were definitely some stinkers. But on the plus side of that, people finally learned to stop watching Transformers movies. And I'm more than certain that people will learn from the awful movies that came out this year that, yeah, that Hollywood shouldn't make these movies. But hey, we'll see what comes as a result of this, and if nothing does, well, that's a shame. But anyway, let me know what you think of this video and of the year as a whole. With that said, I'm going to end the video here. So for a start, check out my Twitter at MrChicken4321. And also, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.